Hello, and welcome back to the Thriftington Post. My name is Lantis, and this week I've been playing Destiny. It's a game about Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. And you're Charlie Brown, and as you soar cartoonishly into the air from an over-exaggeratedly strong kick, you'll have plenty of time just to roll the despair over in your head from yet another crushing disappointment before it all comes crashing down on you. And that's how I felt the first time I arrived on the moon in that game. And I turned around, and there was this massive, expansive landscape as far as the eye could see. And I thought, this is crazy. Look at all this. I can't wait to explore it all. I mean, and it's right there, right behind you as soon as you touch down. And my head was rushing with possibilities of what all I could find out there, what all could possibly be out there to explore and poke around at. And just, there's like this giant crater, and there's smaller craters. Is there stuff hidden in those? I don't know. It's time to find out. I can't wait to find out. I feel like the Lion King, and I've just been told that all this you see before you is yours. And so I jump, I fire the jetpack, and I soar triumphantly into the air until 3 seconds to turn back pops up on my screen. And that's when I realized this was not the as far as the eye could see. This was that shadowy place over there. It's the restricted area, the forbidden zone. You're not allowed to go over there. And I was jetting through the air. There was no time to turn around and go back, but there was time to just hover and despair. And that was the first Charlie Brown moment for me. And I just waited to crash down and for the game to kill me for I don't know what reason. So yeah, the game sets itself up to be an expansive, sprawling MMO, but no, it's not. You can't explore anything. Everything you see around you is just a drawing. It's just a picture, a portrait kill zone. Because if you go over there, you die, and there is never enough time to turn back around. I mean, not that I even care about being able to save myself at that point, but dying on top of I can't explore any of this is just rubbing salt in the wound. No, the only places you can go in this game are the beaten down, well-traveled paths that a million other people before you have walked upon. It's, two roads divided in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by and had 3 seconds to turn back and take the one most traveled by. It's awful. Why would they even pretend to have a giant world like this? Why even make it look like you can walk over there, go over there? Just put a bloody wall up if it's a restricted place to begin with. And there's not even a story explanation of why you can't go to that part of the moon. Did the Traveler only zap certain parts of it and make it habitable? I don't know. I guess that was my takeaway. That are you in a spacesuit? You're in armor. Does it have any sort of life support systems within it? I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. You can't go anywhere. You have to stick to the very bland, very well beaten path. That's exceedingly narrow. Like, the places you can actually go to in this game are tiny. There's no room to move around. There's barely anything to explore, and that was what I was looking forward to the most. Well, there were two things I was looking forward to the most. One was, the first time I was teased with all that space on the moon. The second one was I couldn't wait to step foot on Mercury. It was when in the opening cinematic, it's talking about, the Traveler made Mars habitable and the moon and Venus and Mercury. I was like, I've never been to Mercury in a game before. I have never stepped foot on Mercury before. I can't wait for that. This is going to be amazing. And then, of course, I find out way later on that you never go to Mercury. I finally just looked it up online, and there's like a PvP place you can go to do Mercury, but I don't have PlayStation Plus, so I can never step foot on Mercury. So that would be another Charlie Brown moment. So, yes, this is going to be, oh, nope, just, you know, the hope is there, the excitement's there, the promise is there, and then it's just crushing disappointment. And long as I'm on the subject of scenery, I'm just going to bring one more thing up, and that's the Black Garden. That was probably the most unique landscape I saw in this game. Just, fields of plants. And I thought, well, that looks really cool. I want to go frolic over there. And of course, I stepped foot in it, and 3 seconds to turn back popped up. And I'm like, you were kidding me. This too? Okay, so it's just a thing to be looked at. I'm not even going to look at it. I don't care anymore. If I can't interact with it, then it's irrelevant. It might as well be a stone gray wall. And then I had to go see myself off to generic dungeon number 572. Another thing in the game that I was actually kind of looking forward to. Now, this is my own fault because I made assumptions, right? And that's near the end of the moon. It was time to move on to Venus. And, I never have stepped foot on Venus in a game before either. So, I mean, there's that, right? I can't be too sore about Mercury. But I noticed there was one stage on the moon that I hadn't done, and the game hadn't prompted me to go to, and it was still locked. So I thought, well, the way the moon ended was just like every other ending, right? Like, I didn't feel like that was anything special. So maybe this last thing, after you're on Venus for a while, you come back to the moon, and then you get to do like this grand finale stage. And I was just sort of building this up in my mind as being this really awesome thing I'd get to do later. Like if the story actually started rolling out. I was at this point still waiting for the story to roll out. I wasn't convinced there was as little story as people said there were. I would find out later, yeah, they were right. But anyway, after enough time had passed, I finally checked out the moon again and hovered over that stage because I was starting to get pretty high level. I knew that the game only went to level 20, and I was like, well, when do I go back to the moon? I'm heading on to Mars now. So I checked it out, and that's whenever I noticed the one mission that I hadn't done was like requires PlayStation Plus. And I'm like, but no, that's not a PvP place, that's a PvE place. Only the PvP is locked behind, needing that. And no, that was incorrect. I did not realize that, but a lot of the PvE content is also locked behind PlayStation Plus. So I guess I was never going there. Plus, that meant my idea of seeing some grand ending or finale to the moon story was also out the window. I really was done with the moon. And there were places on Venus that was similar, and I realized, no, that means I'm also done with Venus. Mars is really all that's left. Well, all right then. Another thing that I found disappointing about the game is that the loot is awful. It's really, really boring the entire time you're playing through it. Maybe if you have PS Plus, then at level 20, pushing into the higher levels, you'll actually get some interesting loot. But up to level 20, there's nothing. Like, okay, the stats reduce the cooldowns of your abilities by some tiny amount that I didn't care about. And so I stopped caring about the stats whenever I realized they did nothing. They didn't do anything that I found interesting. And then, like, the extra stuff on your loot's really dull. Like, increases the damage of your gun, okay? Or melee attacks recharge such and such. Or the last shot with the gun, if it's a kill shot, quickens the reload speed. Or, oh, well, no, that one I actually liked. But never mind. Also, the progression system in the game, it's bad. Like, there's no choices to be made whatsoever while you're leveling. Like, at level, I think 17, you can opt to do your sub job instead, and then level all the way back from level 1 again. So I didn't think that was a realistic or reasonable option for someone that just wanted to play through the game and be done with it, right? So I'm not taking that. Everything else is whenever you level up, you have to go to this screen and just click on the next ball in the line because that's the only option you have, one option. So I guess for the character progression, you can opt to just not unlock your abilities, but that's the only choice it gives you. So I'm not even sure why that's there, much like the loot. Like, seriously, the loot was more dull and bland, and awful than even Diablo 3's loot was at launch. So, I don't know. I think the progression and loot system could both be tossed out in that game. And if they hadn't spent so much time working on it, maybe they could have programmed more places to explore on the planets, and then I would love this game. That would be great. Not to say that I completely hated the game from beginning to end. There really were things about it that I enjoyed. The actual combat in the game. I really enjoyed the actual gameplay of the game. Like, there was a lot of things that disappointed me or frustrated me, but when it came to gunning things down, that worked out fine. Like, one thing I like about the game is the sniper rifles. Now, in every other FPS I've ever played, I've never liked sniper rifles. I think that they're slow, clunky, and just overall pointless in most FPS games because the purpose of them is to snipe off one enemy from afar, and if you hit it in the head, then that's a one-hit kill. Okay, cool. But all my guns are one-hit kills in that game, or effectively one-hit kills, or within, a millisecond the thing's going to be dead because I can rattle off bullets into it. This game, not everything is a one-hit kill. You can't quickly pummel something with bullets and it dies. You slowly, methodically wear enemies down because they have HP. Unless you're using a sniper rifle. The sniper rifle in this game, if you headshot with it, or like belly shot for the robots, is still a one-hit kill. It still takes things out in one shot, which is fantastic because that means I don't have to get chased around by 500 enemies. I can actually take some of them out before they all begin to rush at me. So I actually really like that aspect of the sniper rifle. Plus, because things rushing at me was a big issue in this game, being able to take them out from a distance was a huge plus to me. And the other thing I liked about the game was the other gun that I used in the game, which was the revolver. I love revolvers in games. Every time I get one, it reminds me of Resident Evil. In that game, the revolver was so powerful that I've always had a fondness for them ever since. But the thing is that in Resident Evil, like, whenever you find the revolver, it comes with, like, 2 bullets, and then maybe 5 hours later, if you search very carefully, you can find 1 more bullet, right? So, but in this game, you get the revolver, and it's your main weapon. It's one of the main weapons, so there's endless ammo, and it retains all the kick that you would expect a revolver to have. So with a revolver in one hand and a sniper rifle in the other, I could stomp through this game just loving every second of it until I stepped into another portrait kill zone. But, besides that. Oh, also, the revolvers in this game looks exactly like Vash's gun from Trigun. So that's an automatic +1 right there. If I gave games numerical scores, right? Another thing I liked in this game was the Vex, actually, the robot things. Now, most of the enemies in this game are really, really samey. Like, it's the same thing over and over again. But the Vex are a little different because it's just like in Resident Evil, I want to say 5, that counterintuitively, a headshot is not what you want to go for with them. Shooting them in the head's bad. That makes them stronger. Like with the Vex, whenever you shoot their heads off, they just go crazy and start charging after you. And I don't know, I really like that. It was kind of startling. Kind of like Mangle from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. That's what it reminded me of. Just a crazed, busted up robot just come charging at you. So, oh, and one of the bosses I liked in the game was a Vex boss. It was the Gate Lord, because it comes out of this thing at the end of a really long kind of straight path, and so you're kind of shooting up at it, and it's shooting down at you, and you're like ducking behind cover and weaving in and out, and it's a really straightforward encounter, but I don't know, something about it reminded me of Star Fox 64 bosses, how you were kind of in a tunnel shooting at this thing that's right there in front of you in that game, right? And for whatever reason, none of the other bosses gave me that impression in this game except for that one. So I appreciated it really just for that reason. one other thing I liked about the game were the mount-like things you get in it, those speed racer buggies. They kind of reminded me of the speeders from Star Wars Episode 1, which actually should be a negative, but also they occasionally would flip upside down on a dime, and they exploded sometimes, but really the speeders should be a negative, but really anything that gets you through Destiny faster has to be a positive, right? Hmm. Well, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this game. That's it for the show this week. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can on Twitter, Atlantis Armstrong. That's LANTISARMSTRONG. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.